Good afternoon. I'm Brian Orlando here with my friend Ron Goldstein, political pundit.
Hello.
Ron has worked with the likes of Ted Kennedy, Bill Clinton, Barack Obama. You had a hand in getting all of these men elected due to your political science degree, and a lot of this has to do with how we perceive our candidates on screen.
Mm-hmm. It's all about that.
Well, yeah, it's all about perception.
Right.
Yesterday, President Barack Obama was in Tarrytown, right here in Westchester, and he stood in front of the Tappan Zee Bridge. And he was here to talk about infrastructure. And I remember that was something Obama talked about in 2008 during his first campaign.
Right.
He had a very nice speech. He was introduced by Governor Andrew Cuomo, but immediately the Republicans cried foul that Barack Obama scheduled this speech the same exact day as the Republican Convention of New York.
I don't know much about the scheduling part. I mean, who's to say that they didn't have it already lined up when they scheduled their convention and said, hey, you know, we can call ourselves the victims here. I mean, who knows? They have a long history of that. But what I do know from my knowledge of scheduling, which I've been involved in a lot in the past few administrations, is they like to bundle, because there's so much money involved in a president traveling. You have the Secret Service, you have political people, you have ambulances, you have vehicles, you have sound systems, there's so much stuff. It costs so much money, and they're very sensitive to how much it costs, so they try to keep the cost down as much as possible. So what they do, and the last few administrations have been doing this, I believe Republican as well as Democrat, is that they bundle. Lots of times the bundling is around a fundraiser. They have a fundraiser in a certain town, so they say, hey, we have to do a political hit. In this case, what it looks like is that they knew that this morning was the 9/11 museum site dedication.
Right.
They knew that was happening. So Governor Cuomo was probably calling them up and saying, hey, we want to do a dedication of Tappan Zee Bridge. It might be a great hit with infrastructure, with your message. Let's do it. And they said, so then they sit around the table and they say, when are we going to do it? And when they look at the date of the 9/11 memorial, they said, hey, it's perfect. We'll do two hits, one day, one the other day. And maybe they might have had some OTRs called is off the record. They might have done some OTRs that you don't know about, because the president, when he's in the New York metropolitan area for 24 hours, he doesn't just sit home and play solitaire.
Right.
So they probably did other stuff too. Maybe they did a couple of fundraisers, who knows, so they can make some money in the process. But I'm sure this schedule would happen because of the 9/11 dedication.
There was a lot of controversy surrounding the president's arrival in Tarrytown, not just because of the scheduling conflict with the Republican convention. Westchester County Executive Rob Astorino, who does have ties to the Tea Party, but he's a dyed-in-the-wool Republican, is running against Governor Andrew Cuomo in November.
Right.
Now, he announced this 2 days after he was reelected Westchester County Executive. So that's controversial in itself. On top of that, Rob Astorino claims he was not invited to the president's speech in Westchester until 1 day before the event. On top of that, he says that the president did want him to sit up front while he was speaking, but Governor Andrew Cuomo's people, the man he's going to be running against, forced Astorino to sit in the back, and then Astorino talked about it to the news that night.
Well, first of all, what does that say about the leadership qualities of Rob Astorino? I mean, can you imagine if Donald Trump was initially put up front, willfully going to the back? I mean, can you imagine Ted Kennedy? Can you imagine Bill Clinton? Hillary Clinton? I mean,
well, let's be fair. I couldn't imagine the Bushes doing it either.
No way. They're up there and they're stay up there. Andrew Cuomo, they're stay up there. You cannot dislodge them. Not like that. So I don't know what was behind that, but maybe it goes. There's this old Republican playbook that we don't really engage in, but they do, and it's called victimization. They're very, very good at it. Very effective at it. They've turned around campaigns doing it. The biggest example of victimization that I can remember is in the 1992, right here in New York, the New York Senate race between Bob Abrams and Alphonse D'Amato. D'Amato was the incumbent, but he was not so popular. He was seen as sort of a wily person. Maybe it was time to get the Democrats in there. It was a Democratic tide. Clinton was running at the top of the ticket at that time. So Bob Abrams, who was the Attorney General, was pretty popular, and he was winning by like 20 points. And then he said this thing where he called D'Amato or D'Amato's tactics fascist. Well, Alphonse D'Amato turned it around that it was an anti-Italian slur. And he rode that all the way, turned it from a 20-point deficit into a 1-point victory. I mean, if you're a political aficionado, it's like perfect. It's a masterpiece. It's the Mona Lisa. And that's exactly what happened then. And ever since then, I don't know if they've done it before, but ever since that race, the Republicans have been playing the victimization card every single time. They think it's effective. I question, after doing it so many years, how effective it is among independent voters, which is really what you're going for.
They're looking at the guy who's going to be running for governor on their behalf.
Right.
And he's so willful he gives up his seat, and they're okay with that just so they could cry along with him.
It's the Republican. It's the number one rule in the Republican playbook. It's the hand the ball to the running back and let him run with it. That's what this is. Victimization. If you want me to cite other examples, it's practically every day of Obama's administration, no matter what he does. Healthcare. They're going to take away your doctor. They're going to take away your insurance. There's so many. Just last week when we were talking about the IRS scandal,
right?
That's a perfect example where it was proven through several investigations that these 405c groups were targeted, that were charitable organizations,
right.
And a lot of them were political. Well, they went after the political ones because the IRS because they thought
technically they weren't charitable.
Right. And so what the Republicans did was they turned it around that the Tea Party and the Republican organizations were gone after, were persecuted in a McCarthyite style by the Democrats. Beautiful! Because it was proven that they were going after political groups in general. Liberal, conservative, Democrat, Republican, everything on the left and the right. But they turned it around that they were the victims on the right. And it's just beautiful. Another page in the Republican victimization playbook.
Is this the trend that you see moving forward with them?
They're not. They don't look like they're going to quit. I mean, they do it every single race, and they look for it, and then if they can't find it, they manufacture it. And some of this stuff is just really like way out there.
Well, they seem to speak on behalf of others too. I remember during Obama's first term, he was on. It was either Kimmel or Fallon, and they asked him about utilizing the bowling alley in the White House, and Obama made an off-the-cuff remark. He goes, "Oh God, when I bowled, it was like the Special Olympics." Well, I remember Republicans jumping on that, saying Obama hates the handicapped. Look at the way he disrespected the handicapped on national TV. You and I would both speak that way in a bar, and I understand he's the president and he should have been more careful.
Yes.
But these things do happen,
right.
And it went from the president made a boneheaded comment to the president hates handicapped people.
Right. I think even more than that, they wanted to publicize that it was an anti-bowling. I think they want to go after bowlers. There's a lot of independent voters that are bowlers, and I think that was probably thought of part of their playbook as well.
It seems like that would be next.
They're very good at it. It's no matter where it's at, what they do. Healthcare.
Sure.
Under Clinton, the whole gun thing, victimization. You and us, we that want 12 assault rifles in our house. The government, the Democratic government, is going to break into our homes and steal our guns. And we can't let that happen. Victimization, where in reality, nobody wants to do that.
I'm on Facebook a lot. We do a lot of social media. And I was on a post this morning on my radio show where they were comparing the Michael Sam situation, the first openly gay player in the NFL, to Tim Tebow, who wasn't the first, but a very openly Christian football player in the NFL.
Right.
And they talked about why Tim Tebow was vilified for his Christian beliefs, and Michael Sam is being glorified for being gay. Now, I agree with them on a lot of aspects of this, because Tebow was actually the better player. Michael Sam is a fringe player at best, drafted 8th to last in the NFL. Why were there cameras in the man's house? There wouldn't be if he wasn't gay. That being said, all I heard of was the liberal media forcing him down our throats. Well, wasn't it the right-wing media that forced Tebow down our throats?
Well, the biggest difference between Tebow and Sam is that Tebow represented religion,
right?
And it just seems like to a lot of us on the left or on the Democratic side that we're getting religion thrust down our throats. And it's you talk about the founding fathers. Our country was founded on the separation of church and state. Nobody's persecuting people because they're religious. Nobody. But when it came to the example of Michael Sam, gay people have been persecuted, discriminated against, maybe is a better term, not persecuted so much, except for a few people. So it was groundbreaking. That was the big difference. I do have to take exception with you that you said about Michael. I think Michael Sam is a good player, and I think he might prove you wrong as far as Tebow being the better player.
He was the defensive player. He was the collegiate defensive player. I get all of that. But at the combine, he put on an abysmal performance. And a lot of people are saying it was because he was distracted. He's the one who did that to himself. Yeah. He's the one who made the announcement.
Well, I have to agree with you there.
Therefore, I've just never seen, it was unprecedented, that the cameras were in the home of a 7th round pick.
Like I said, it's groundbreaking. It's the next Jackie Robinson. That's what they're saying. Although we've had a few people that are the next Jackie Robinson.
Right.
They're going to start to get tired of the number 42s and the Jackie Robinsons.
When Michael Sam can't use the same water fountain as the rest of his teammates, then talk to me about Jackie Robinson. The media loves to compare new faces to faces of the past. Sometimes it's a little unjustified.
The big groundbreaker was Jackie Robinson, but it's a weird thing because it's football, right?
Right.
In football, it's about people wrapping their arms around other people and throwing them to the ground, or running away from people who want to wrap their arms around you.
You should have saw the amount of men I was wrapping my arms around when the Giants beat the Patriots twice.
I wasn't doing that, so. It does have it is interesting. It's groundbreaking, but I'm happy for the whole situation. Right. Here's just like with Obama. I said the big groundbreaking with Obama was not 2008. That was huge,
right?
But it wasn't the biggest. The biggest was 2012, because in 2008 we voted a black man as president of the United States. In 2012, we voted to re-elect a president who happened to be black. When it becomes more common, that's where the breakthrough happens. We go through a lot of pomp and circumstance right now. We go through a lot of dialogue, and it's big, but when it becomes more routine, and it seems like in the media world, you have to go through this rite of passage first.
Sure.
But once that happens, it becomes more routine. That's where the real news is.
Ron writes, Ron Goldstein, politicalpundit.wordpress.com. You can catch Ron's writings weekly. You've been doing 2 a week. @Free Media Inc. is Ron's Twitter handle. @freemediainc.com.
I always like to get a different aspect. I monitor the news very closely, the mainstream news, CNN,
right.
New York Times, Time Magazine, and the myriad others that are like that. And I always try to do a different twist on the stories that are in the news. So I think it's worth checking out.
I'm honestly curious about the entire Steve Kerr, Phil Jackson, New York Knicks situation. We'll see if you get a little sports on me.
Well, I might have to interview you on that one.
We'll see you next week.
Go Red Sox.